route. And just to let you know, we have various streams that we will be undertaking moving forward. But for the purposes of this particular cohort, we are going to be focusing more on the Dynamics 365 sales route. And however, how we've broken it down, we've done it on a week-by-week basis, and every week should mirror an epic in itself. So as for today, we will concentrate on the introduction of Microsoft Dynamics 365, and we will also look at configuring the organization and looking at the management settings. So that's the agenda to start off today, and then followed on by the subsequent weeks, where we are going to look at managing leads and opportunities in Dynamics 365. So as a top line figure, what we are going to look is how do we manage leads within Microsoft Dynamics? How do we use the platform to manage opportunities as well? And then the following week, we'll look at organizing catalogs and processes and sales orders within Dynamics 365. The following 2 weeks, we'll look at management of goals. And the following week after that, we'll be analyzing data. So this will be predominantly focusing on Power BI and how we analyze data within Dynamics 365. And also we will quickly run through sales insights, where we'll look at sales accelerators, and then we'll also look at voice of the customer and customer voice surveys. And then finally, in the penultimate week before we finish this course, we will look at extending Dynamics using additional tools, things like how do we use the mobile sales app. So in a nutshell, this is what we are going to be looking at in the next couple of weeks going forward. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to Alex, who is going to take over and start the actual training for this particular week. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for making time to learn Dynamics 365. So just to start off with, I think we had a very positive start with someone looking to see what this thing is all about. Can I have a shout or someone type in the chat window if anyone has ever heard of Dynamics 365, or if anyone understands exactly what we are talking about here? There is no wrong or correct answer, so please feel free to put things in the chat window or unmute yourselves and kind of give a go. Then I'm going to start sharing some slides and we get going. So the session is a learning session, so please do not feel shy to ask. Please do ask questions. So anyone ever heard of Dynamics? So the question now is, if anyone hasn't heard about this Dynamics 365, can we have some yeses if you haven't heard about it? If you have heard about it, please do let us know as well. Anyone?
Heard about it from DG.
Amazing stuff. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Okay, awesome stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share a presentation, which is some slides. So what I always do in terms of training sessions, I try not to speak to myself. So I will at some point engage you as well. So if I do happen either to call out your name and ask something, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's part of the learning curve. It's part of making sure we are all engaging in the training. In some cases, I know this is, for some of you, something completely new. So ideally, I would try and push and ask questions as well. So let me just start by sharing my screen here. So share screen. Host, if you could ask, if you can give me permissions to share the screen, that would be appreciated.
Done.
Amazing stuff. Yep, I've got it. So in this instance now, can I just ask if everyone can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. So I'll just give you an overview before we start looking at what you're seeing on this slide here. So Dynamics 365 started some years back, and the original name was Dynamics CRM. So CRM, Customer Relationship Management. So that was the main target market for that specific product. But as technology moved forward, Microsoft decided to expand the product across different markets. So we now have Dynamics 365. For some of you, you do use Office 365. Some of you on the training course, at some point or another, you have used Microsoft Teams as part of your training. That in itself, it comes into an ecosystem, which is called Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365, why I mention it here, and Dynamics 365, they are better together. They interact together. They are basically cousins. So within Dynamics 365, sales, so we have sales, which we are focusing on at this moment in time for this specific cohort. We also have Dynamics 365 customer service to manage any case management, customer queries. We have things for finance, business central. We also have finance and operation, human resources, retail, e-commerce. The list goes on. So Dynamics 365 itself covers a whole spectrum of organizations and industries. So we can talk from a religious point of view, financial, education, engineering. There is something for Dynamics 365. The question now you might be thinking is, why are we talking about just sales only? So in terms of learning the whole Dynamics 365, with the time constraints we have, we will not be able to teach you all of it. So we're gonna specialize on this Dynamics 365. So just to ask in here, has anyone ever heard of something called Power Platform?
Yes.
Please, okay, awesome. Power Platform, great. Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. So Power Platform in itself, it is an ecosystem. It is a family, you might want to say it. So with the family, it's got its own siblings, brothers and sisters. So within Power Platform, you have 4 main pillars. You have Power Apps, you got Power Automate for automation, which is also covered as Dynamics 365. You also have Power BI to surface those real-time analytics to help organizations make strategic and timely decisions. You also have Power Virtual Agents, which many people refer as PVA. These are those chatbots you see when you go on the internet. A little pop-up pops up, good evening, how can I help? You start asking it questions, similar to some of you have had something called ChatGPT, similar way of things. The only difference here with Power Virtual Agents, you're configuring it to meet your business needs. So with Power Platform, that's where Dynamics 365 belong. Dynamics 365, if you go to the market, if you have conversations, whether with recruiters or in a workplace, they refer to it as a model-driven app. Why is it called a model-driven app? Main reason being here, it is a pre-configured application which allows organization to customize it. When I say customize, I'm talking about modifying the application to meet the business needs. So within Dynamics 365, the sales module in particular here, we're talking about an organization. So in the chat window, can I get everyone to mention where they're logging in from? So if I can just have everyone typing in the chat window where you're messaging from, or where you're attending the class from. Is it me, or I don't seem to see the chat window? Okay, there's someone from Birmingham, awesome. Anyone else? Yeah, we have Lagos, Nigeria, fantastic. And where is everyone? Everyone is hiding, I guess, right? Yeah, Milton Keynes, great. Kent, London. Kent, awesome. Okay, fantastic. So we're seeing people in the United Kingdom, people in Lagos, we have people in Spain, we have people in Brighton. So you might be wondering, why is this guy on the training asking us where we are? I promise you, I don't intend on visiting. I'm a bit tired, but the reason I'm asking you where you're logging in from is to give you an example which resonates with your environment. So in this context here, we have our friend here who's logging in from Lagos. So you have in Lagos, you have MTN. So with MTN, or take it, for example, actually, let's leave MTN. Let's go, for example, with the government in Nigeria. So the government wants to communicate with people. They want to understand what is it we can do for these people in this region. And then from that insight, they pass it to organizations. There's different organizations. They might be selling water. They might be selling Coca-Cola, Fanta. So in this point here, they want to build the connection with their people. So in this context here, Coca-Cola is not going to supply millions of Coca-Cola bottles in a location in Nigeria where they know it's not going to sell. So the whole idea in the context of Dynamics 365 here, it's to ensure the business have enough insights. So for those of you in the UK, if you remember a few years back, places like Tesco, Morrison, Sainsbury's, you can mention all these supermarkets. If you go in there in the evening, you used to have a massive shelf. There's things reduced because they're going out of date. And one of the problems which was here, the organizations did not have enough understanding of what their customers are buying. That's why now you go to a Tesco in a different location, whether, for example, East London, a Tesco in Birmingham, you might see there is a section for world foods. Then you go into central London, you might not find that world food section in the same shop. We're talking about Tesco here as an example. The reason being is they're using systems like Dynamics 365 to understand what is it their customers need, what is it our business can sell and make money, and what is it we can do to save money. In this context, they're not waiting for someone to build a report for them to review at the end of the month. They're looking at real insights. They're looking at real data to make strategic decisions for their businesses. In some cases, I don't know if any of you in UK have ever been to any of these phone shop companies and you've inquired about a contract. At some point, you think, okay, yeah, I'm going to go for it. Have you ever seen how quickly they move to get you seated, to get you comfortable? They even ask you in some cases, would you like a cup of tea? Would you like a drink? The whole idea here is they're going into their systems. They want to close the sale quick. The moment you sign the contract, I don't know if any of you have noticed, they don't care about you anymore. They know the money is coming to their business. That's just how these systems are designed. In some cases, you have organizations which sell cars. they want to be able to say, okay, we've marketed to Mr. Deji in this context. We've marketed to him about this BMW car and he didn't get back to us. That was last year in November. We have a brand new series of BMWs. Let's give him a try again. In some cases, they'll call you. In some cases, they'll say, oh yeah, my colleague spoke to you a year or so ago. We have a very good deal now we can offer you. In that context, they now know the reason why you do not buy their product previously. So in that case, they're now saying, okay, we spoke to him now, they gave you the offer. In some cases, they won't push you too much. They'll say to you, think about it. All that information from a phone call then goes into Dynamics 365, which will show you exactly where that data goes and what that data is called. So I'm talking about a phone call here. In some cases, it's not all of us who enjoy being on a phone call. Some of us decide to go on an email. So in terms of our email, we're talking about an activity. You're talking about an email. In some cases, some people still use letters. We still get letters, but not as much as before, because these organizations, they've understood that not many people really care about letters. If you see, in most cases, they only send you a letter if they're chasing their debt, because they know people just ignore the email. If they send you a letter, they have something, a proof, if they happen to try and push it forward. So in terms of Dynamics 365 here, there are key components involved in this structure. We have a customer. The question is, what is a customer here? So in this context, I'm just going to ask again for some guesses. If someone, please feel free to unmute yourself and just give us what you think what a customer is when you talk about Dynamics 365. We're talking about selling something. If anyone want to have a guess what a customer is? Yeah, we have a TME. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good evening, Alex. A customer, I think it would be someone who has made the slightest communication with the company. So even if it is as little as hello, hi, that's a customer. Everyone that communicates, that has contact with the company is a potential customer. That's my idea.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Can I just ask everyone, do we agree with that? It's not a test. We're all learning together here, right? Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, amazing stuff. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, there's someone who is speaking, go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree with that, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so in this context here, that's what a customer is. Someone who's interacted with the organization. So once we have our customer, the customer is the integral part of this whole process. Without any customer, organizations do not make money. Organizations do not survive without a customer. Whether it's a customer at a food shop, it's a customer at a bank, it's a customer at any place you can call it, you can mention it. Without the customer, the business don't survive. So here we've established what a customer is. Wonderful stuff. And for those of you who are in doubt, the image gives it away as well. Look at the handshake. That's where we just need to keep an eye on. So we then start talking about leads. So when we have leads here, this is a sniff or a line of someone who's shown interest. So if someone shows a bit of interest, for example, we've gone to a conference or we've gone to the local area and we're saying to someone, oh, you know what, I work for this company, this is what I do, this is what we can do for you. And in that case, you've kind of told me that and I've said, oh, okay, that sounds really interesting. Let's keep in touch. At that point, I might give you my email address or I might give you my phone number. In that case, I haven't committed to buying anything from you. It just, whether you might call me and I can just tell you to leave me alone. You might call me and I can tell you, oh, you know what, I'm a bit busy. Or I can say, you know what, great, thanks for calling. Can you tell me a bit more about your product? So in that context, you tell me a bit more about your product, and then I get interested. Once I get interested, at that moment in time, there is two things which happens with leads. If I say, great, let's do business, that becomes a lead qualification. The lead gets qualified. And then if I say, I'm not interested, and please do not call me again, that lead gets disqualified. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, great. So once we take the scenario of the lead getting qualified, does anyone want to share or unmute themselves and tell us what happens? If I say I'm interested, from looking at the diagram we can see on your screen here, what do you think will happen?
You become an opportunity.
Fantastic stuff. I like this. Do we all agree? Any objections from anyone?
Objection.
Hello,
Good evening.
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
I was thinking a lead is someone who is a potential customer.
Yeah, that could be a potential customer, but it does not mean they're committing to buy anything. They could be potential, but they're not committing to buy anything. So we have to nurture them to agree or to say, no, I'm not interested. So in that context, yes, they could be a potential customer, but they're not getting to be an opportunity because they haven't committed to anything.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we had the opportunity answer. Do we all agree that if a lead has been qualified, it becomes an opportunity?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to change the question. How come we agree? How come we agree it becomes an opportunity?
Because they are potential sales.
Okay, great. I'm really happy everyone is interacting. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So within Dynamics 365, at this point, we have a lead. There are things which happens if we qualify a lead. What happens at this point here? It creates a contact. A contact in Dynamics can also be called a customer. So it creates a contact. Once it creates a contact, depending on your configuration, it also by default out of the box, it creates an account record. So in this context here, you don't see account on my slides here. Does anyone want to guess exactly what an account is in this context? We have a lead converted to an opportunity, a customer, a contact has been created. What is an account?
An account is a personal, when you personalize it for the customer, maybe after you make a quote.
Okay, great. Anyone else? So an account in Dynamics 365, it is an organization. It is a company. So we have right at the top, we have the company, the account. Within the account, you have contacts. So how does this work? So in this context here, we go back to an organization like Sainsbury's, for those of you in UK. Sainsbury, for those of you who might be in Nigeria, don't know what Sainsbury is, it is a retail chain. So what a retail chain has is got the hierarchy. You got the directors, you got the managers, you got those guys who work hard to share the products to make sure they're on the shelves. You have those ones on the checkouts. You also have the security guards waiting to make sure no one is stealing stuff. So from an organization point of view, you're looking to make business with Tesco. If you're looking to make business with Tesco, the contacts here are the employees of Tesco. From a business point of view, you do not interact with the person on the checkout. That person does not make strategic decision for Tesco. There are senior people higher up the chain, whether in the board or in the management area, who make these decisions. So in this context, we have our organization account, Tesco or Sainsbury's, and then we have our customer or contact, who is the person we interact with. So in Dynamics terms, we are not going to have all the employees for the organizations. We only keep the key people. So from an opportunity point of view, you will have a value called a primary contact. That's the person we speak to. In easier terms in here, when I got the amazing invite to come to Blue Sky, I knew most of you here are around, but the point of contact I had was Mr. Deji. From Mr. Deji's point of view, that's the contact for Blue Sky, and Blue Sky has lots of amazing students. So that's basically how you can contextualize it, how you can put it into context here. So we have our opportunity. We know this person is interested in something. And of course, I'm not going to ask you here. We then give the person a code. So we spoke about customer-led opportunity, a code. We give them a code. Then the person says, okay, I really like your discount. I really like what you're offering me. Let's do it. At that point in Dynamics 365, we raise an order. Once you raise an order, an invoice is now sent out. Can you please pay us the money? That's the end goal. So whatever happens at these points here, there are great things from an organization insights. The goal is to get to a paid invoice. That's the goal when you're coming to talk about this life cycle of Dynamics 365. So for some of you who are new to Dynamics, or some of you who know Dynamics, we spoke about all these things here. I'm going to tell you what they are, but before I tell you what they are, does anyone want to share what they think these things are? I know these are images on here, but from a Dynamics point of view, does anyone want to have a say what these things are? So these things here in Dynamics 365, they're called tables. So for those of you who do data analysis, these things are called tables. They are very instrumental when you start building your Power BI dashboards. So these things here, what is the lead? You might go to an interview, they ask you, okay, what have you worked on with Dynamics? In this context, you want to be able to speak and start saying, okay, I've worked with a lead table, opportunity table. Straight away, they know, okay, what this person is talking about. They have an overview and oversight of what they're saying. So in regards to this slide here, before we move on, does anyone has any questions, please? Feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to put any questions in the chat window. If there's no questions, we can move on to the next one.
Can I quickly ask, the life cycle, is it the same as the rest of the dynamic? You know, you said there's finance, there's retail, there's e-commerce and all of that.
Yeah.
We won't be going through all of that. So is this life cycle the same in those ones as well?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So the life cycle will be different. The terminology of tables will be the same. So I'll give you an example here from a customer service point of view. You have purchased a product and you get home and you realize this product has a defect. What you then do at this point, you call the company. And while you're calling the company, they tell you there's a long wait. And at some point, they'll tell you you are in the queue, you're number 61. At this point, you're also thinking you need to rush to work. You need to rush to go somewhere. You'll be like, okay, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to wait. You go and raise an email complaint to the customer services. So from a customer service Dynamics 365 point of view, you're now talking about the customer life cycle. You're talking about a case which is being created. A customer is not happy about something. A customer from this sales area, they've got their products, but there's something missing. Within their product, what is it within the customer entitlements? What is it in terms of refunds we can give these people? So for some of you who have played around with our friends at Sky in UK, if you call at least once a year and you complain, oh, my bill was this and like that, in some cases, there might be nothing wrong with the bill. But what they tend to do at Sky, I'm not giving you ideas here, guys, but if you do it once a year, they might say to you, oh, we're really sorry I've had this experience. I'm going to give you £30 or £20 off your bill on your next bill. Again, it's not to say they want to lose money, but that's how they manage that customer satisfaction. Is basically entitlements. They call it entitlements. It's things they can do for a customer. In some cases, if for some of you who had the organization called Flybe, the aeroplane company in UK, it went out of business. People had booked holidays. All they just say to their customers is contact your bank or contact your operator. So in this context, from a customer service point of view, the banks manages cases in a customer service scenario. From a different area, for example, the human resources area, you're talking about employees, someone messaging the organization to say, oh, my pay, I got overpaid. How can I give you the money back? I know it doesn't happen, but it's just a scenario, right? In this case, the HR system then works through that life cycle. They go look at your employee number. They go and look at other items. In some cases, they say to you, we need to have your passport details. They need to have your ID. Those things, they cannot be stored in a system like a sales module because the sales module is not designed for that. You can talk about e-commerce. So e-commerce, you're talking about people going to a website, they're buying things in real time. The sales module, customer service module, or the other modules of Dynamics, they're not designed to handle transactions. So again, the simple answer here, the modules will be different, terminology will be the same. I hope that answers the question. Any other questions from anyone, please? So what you could see in here, because I had my Zoom covering this area here, we also have—
Hello, Alex.
Catalog. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question pop on the chat box anyway, but let me ask it. What's the difference between the Dynamics 365, the sales module, and then the Salesforce CRM? Is there any difference?
CRM. So
yeah, the Salesforce CRM, yeah.
Okay, so in terms of CRM, Salesforce, there's no difference in here. What's different here is different companies. This is a competitor to Dynamics 365. So you got Sales CRM. You also have things like Workday, which does payroll. There's lots of other CRMs out there, but this is a Microsoft product. Salesforce is a completely different organization. They try and work on the same lines, and in some cases, Salesforce see what Microsoft are doing, they try and counter that. Microsoft see what Salesforce are doing, they try and counter that. What makes Microsoft big in this context here, Microsoft provide a whole lot more than just Salesforce competition. There's Microsoft Azure, there's M365, which are things you do not get with Power BI, with Salesforce, I mean. So with Microsoft, you then have a lot of services in Microsoft Azure, logic apps, function apps, service bus things, which do other different functions for organizations, which you do not get with Salesforce. But again, in simple terms, Salesforce is just a competitor. This is also a competitor to Salesforce.
Sorry, which also means that when you see a role for Salesforce CRM, right, and you've got Dynamic CRM, you can apply for it. The only thing that you would tell them that, oh, you've worked for similar application before, and they might also consider you.
Yep. I hope that answers the question. Any other question? Let me just look in the chat window.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Okay,
Yeah, sure,
you mentioned that I can talk to a neuro recruiter that I've worked with, lead table before, opportunity table before. Are those different tables, are they separated? Do they have like a questions that you need to actually, let's say like training that you need to do on each of them?
So when we refer to tables, that's a great question. When we refer to tables, we're talking in the context of a house here. We have a house. Within a house, we have bedrooms, we have furniture, we have maybe our flowers or our fruits we put all somewhere. So in the context of a table is a house. A table has different things. But what's in common in a house, there is a mechanism of a window. So the mechanism for these tables is the same. So what I mean is the same. You have things like forms, you have things like relationships, you have things like views, you have things like fields, now called columns, you have things like dashboards. That standard is the same across all the tables. The only difference here, these tables are doing completely different things. So as the course goes on, you will be able to see exactly what's within the tables and exactly what happens. So as part of the training, you also have the hands-on experience to click on these things and to build things and see how they work. So yeah, that's a good question to ask. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone before we proceed?
Yeah, please. Good evening. Sorry, I came in late, so maybe.
Good evening.
Yes, maybe my part of question must have been covered. I'm not sure, but I need to still ask. Now, what part of the Dynamics 365 deals with education solution, like what the universities they use for 365? What part of it deals with that?
Great. So with Dynamics 365, there is an add-on which is called Dynamics 365 for Education, which then interacts with Microsoft Teams for Education too. So basically this then allows the organizations or the universities to put their training, their timetables, any curriculum items the students need to have access to. So in this scenario here, the student does not log into Dynamics 365. There is something on the side, which is called a portal. So what a portal does, it allows external people to interact with your internal data. So the students will log into a portal, University of Lagos, University of Ibadan, whichever university you want to put here. You are a student for a law degree, you're a student for whatever degree you're studying. Your profile will be configured to show you things which aligns with your course. So you're not going to log into the portal, then start saying, if you need to see other things which are not aligned with your course, that's where you kind of see an overview of another course, and then you got the option to say apply or inquire. Then that generates an email to an admin. So how that works, for example, with a Blue Sky context here, you have business analysts, we have QAs, data analysts, Scrum Masters, project managers. We have amazing people, if you want to call it that way. You go onto the portal, and in this context now, you've signed up to this Dynamics 365 course. You need to see all the recordings of this course. Instead of sharing this in Telegram, that will be shared onto the portal and available to students who are studying Dynamics 365. So in this case here, you might see, okay, oh, I was looking at this recording, I missed a class. You can actually comment on it and say, okay, yeah, at this minute or so, I need to ask a question about it. Other students can interact to it. So in this case here, you now start looking at things like forums, where people are actually asking questions and replying. The same concept applies with the Dynamics 365 module for education.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, this perspective deals with people interacting with the system. Now, as a Scrum Master that is about to be employed by, let's say, a university, what are my responsibility in using the 365 to kind of bring about customer satisfaction for the school? What will be my role? What will I be doing? Or what will the teams be doing?
That's a very good question. So from a Scrum Master point of view, what is important is for you to understand what is involved with this technology. What I mean, what's involved, the last thing you want as a Scrum Master is a developer or someone doing QA telling you it's going to take a long time, it's complex because you don't understand the product. And you say, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then you go to your reporting line. The reporting line, maybe they might understand the product. And then they say to you, you're telling me you've agreed to this. It takes this amount of time. Why? So I had the scenario like that myself in my own projects I worked on last year. I had a project manager who didn't understand what we're doing on the project from a dynamics point of view. So they came and they put an estimate for 10 days for a piece of work to be done. This piece of work took 30 minutes to do. They went to report to their reporting lines, and unfortunately, they had an email exchange, which wasn't nice. So ideally, from a Scrum Master point of view, understanding the principles helps you to also nurture your teams, to coach your teams, to also get things unblocked. So if you're looking to unblock things which have been blocked within your sprint, if you don't understand exactly what the issue is and the developer is explaining to you, and you're still not understanding it, the next thing is you're not going to be able to unblock it. You might then go to a product owner. The product owner might have a say and say, you know what, let's drop it. Then eventually, if they find out, okay, this is what needed to be done, but because we didn't have awareness of what's happening, it doesn't give a good showing from your point of view. So from a Scrum Master point of view, just having the fundamental knowledge helps you as well with the interactions with your teams, whether you go to a detailed refinement, you know if you're putting your actions together, you know what actions you're putting together. But if you don't know what people are talking about, in most cases, that's when you spend most of your time. You are now messaging people individually to validate things because you're not getting it. So in most cases, myself, I'm one of those people nowadays. If we speak about something in a meeting and you message me back separately, I normally tell you to go reflect to the meeting because I get tired now of people asking me these kind of things. So it just, from a Scrum Master point of view, project manager, it's just good to have the awareness. So it's not to be an expert, but having the awareness to say, okay, we're talking about leads here. We need to change something on the lead form. Just to know, okay, yeah, we know what we're talking about. And because you know how this works. In some cases, if you're working, they might say we need to hire someone to do administration for Dynamics. And you are a Scrum Master in this case, you can turn around and say, don't worry, I've got the skill set to do it. Pay me more money. They'll add more money to your salary, to your day rate. You now have two personas, a Scrum Master and an admin. You take more money home. Those things can happen too.
Okay, last one. Sorry, I'm taking time now.
No. Go for it. The more questions, the better.
Yes, from my university, the Montfort University, our emails goes with 365.dmu.ac. So yep. I know it's Microsoft Dynamics, part of it. Now, we have those emails. Does that mean that the Scrum team handling these are responsible for the security of that email, the creation of the email, and the data management of all the students, and also how each individual, both student and staff, interact with both the portal and, let's say, the dashboard and Turnitin and all those functionalities? Does that mean that's part of what the Scrum team does?
So in here, when you mention the Scrum team, do you mean the Scrum Master or you also mean the developers?
Every one of them, the developer, the testers. So I want to know if it's their job to manage the system that creates those 365 emails for the students, get the students on board, manage the system, the security, and also how the student interact with the whole portal, because there's we do interact with the library, we do interact with the dashboard itself, which contains all the different functionalities on the portal. We do interact with Turnitin, where we submit our assignment, our coursework. So, and even bringing in the coursework and the module content into the dashboard. Is that all part of what the Scrum team manages?
Okay, that's a very good case scenario you brought here. So the first part is the end part you mentioned about uploading material. That's not the Scrum team's role, but to ensure you have the security in place, there should be discussions on security. And if there's no discussions on security as part of the items you're developing, then there is something which is not quite right within that specific organization. So in some cases, what you have the security team, which might sit outside the Scrum team. In some Scrum teams, you might have someone they call a solution designer. The solution designer has the responsibility to ensure they look at security, they look at performance, they also look at, from a Scrum team point of view, they also look at performance. They also look at the testers looking at regression, looking at smoke test. So again, you're talking about the Scrum team here, but if you start talking about uploading things, that should not be the Scrum team's responsibility. In terms to how the people interact with the portal, if there's any issues there, it needs to go through the backlog. It needs to go through the support mechanism in the first place. The user raising a support ticket, I've got an issue here. If it's been identified through first, second line processes, and it's been identified as a defect, it goes on the product backlog as a defect. The product owner then prioritizes it. Then we see how high it is within the backlog. We take it onto the sprint. But it should not be the Scrum team's responsibility to be uploading course material to the portal.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Again, just to emphasize on that as well, the question is, if things, for example, the Scrum team upload a course material to a student studying maths and they upload law material, then what happens at that point? Or if they upload results to the wrong student? Because the business themselves, the people at the university, the lecturers, they know their students more than the Scrum team does.
Yeah, I was thinking that the BAs gathering requirements will get these details from the lecturers, and then they will now, put that into a functional story that the developer can now impute into the portal.
Yeah, the only problem is in terms of uploading data. Go ahead, Deji.
Yeah, sorry. The Scrum team will provide the capabilities to be able to upload data. Okay. Like Alex said, they will not upload data. They will, and like you will develop it, you will test it, you will know that it, when they want to use it, they can use it to upload the data. Okay. But it will be now the business, in this case, maybe is a tutor, lecturers, admin, course, anyone will be able to upload it. But the Scrum team will only provide the facility or capability for them to be able to do that.
Able to do that. Yeah, I get the picture now. Yes, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. So just moving on, we don't have many slides left. So in here, just to show you that sales process we mentioned. So what you see here, we start from this point and the outcome is to be at this point. So in Dynamics 365, what you then have is a business process flow. So the business process flow is designed to guide the salesperson to say, okay, at the lead stage, I have enough information to start harassing this person to get a sale, to get it to an opportunity. Then once it gets to an opportunity, we now know what happens at this point. We start taking a few more details, which allows us to get to this point. So in a dynamic scenario, as you see it, you will see something like this. The only difference you see is there'll be little circles. So it's called a business process flow. So when we mention a business process flow, we're talking about how it's set up in Dynamics. There is a business process flow from a business analyst point of view, where we are talking about what is the end-to-end process for the business. What is the business process? What is it, their processes they have currently? From a Dynamics point of view, we're talking about a BPF, business process flow. It helps against errors from the sales team. So in most cases, for some of you, as you go on this application journey, in some cases, you also become a lead. So you apply for a job. What tends to happen from the recruiter, normally there is someone who's designed to speak to leads at this point in time. And then if they realize you are the right candidate for the role, you are an opportunity at this point because they can get you into a role. They also get money out of it. In some cases, you get to this point here, and I would hope none of you get to that level where the lead doesn't get here. So for me, I'll see your journey is from here, and the outcome here is to be in employment. So that's more or less the journey from a business process flow, what we are talking about here. So these names here, I'm just going to leave them on the screen for now, for you guys just to have a look at them. I'm going to start speaking about them as after you guys digest it. So if anyone has any comments on the previous slides, do let me know. But I just want you all to just look at these things here. These things here, if you understand them from a high level, not from a technical level, but a high level, there's nothing which stops you from landing that Scrum Dynamics role, Project Manager Dynamics role, Data Analyst Dynamics role, if you understand what we are seeing on the screen here. So I'm going to tell you exactly one by one what these things are. And just to give you an overview so you understand what it is. Some of them I've already mentioned what they are, but the key thing here, most of them are tables. So the whole element about tables, a lead is a table, an opportunity is a table, an account, a customer is a table, okay? A user is a person like myself or yourself, but there's also something called a user-based table, which is also a table for users. So, of course, we spoke about accounts, so we're not going to cover accounts anymore. We're going to speak about activities. So activities, I did mention earlier about you sent an email to an organization, you sent a phone call. They record these things as an activity. They want to be able to look at their customer satisfaction. They want to see where they need to improve. So in some cases, within these activities, senior management teams, they kind of start drilling down, okay, in the month of January, we had 10 complaints. What was unique in those complaints? What is it our service did not deliver to meet our customer needs? So every single interaction which takes place in regard to a Dynamics record, and I'll tell you what a record is recorded in Dynamics as there is an activity for it. So I might just call up and say, oh, my bill is due next week. I won't be able to pay for it. Can I pay for it the week after, please? Can I have a payment arrangement? That's an activity. The person on the other side records that interaction within Dynamics 365. If you then call up the week after, oh, I can't pay again, I need to pay afterwards, then they start asking you, yeah, but you agreed to say you're going to pay this time, because basically you're speaking to a different person in this case, but they have this. That's when they say, oh, we need to do security validation. Can you tell me your address? Can you tell me your first line of your address, your first name, and your last name? That's basically what they're doing. The person already knows, you've told them who you are. They're just looking at the history of the account. They're basically looking at the history of the record in Dynamics. So in Dynamics 365, you also have AI capabilities. So for those of you who haven't heard of AI, we're talking about artificial intelligence. So in terms of artificial intelligence, you now have the capability in Dynamics 365, which allows the salespeople or the sales teams to look at opportunities which are high risk, to look at leads which needs revisiting. So instead of someone manually having to go and say, okay, this lead, we spoke to them a while back and they were not interested, Dynamics now groups them all together using artificial intelligence. And in some cases, it can just send you a report. Say, look, these are the leads we haven't interacted with in the last 60 days. To meet our key point indicators, let's push on it. So that's when the sales manager brings his team together, and we all think, oh, they're all united. They have a family arrangement like in a workplace. No. The manager is saying, look, these are the records here. These are the people we need to target this month. Out of the 30 people, we need to make sure we get at least 20. Out of the 30 people, we need to get a specific number. So again, we are speaking about artificial intelligence at this point. So again, business process flow. I did share that on the last slide. Does anyone still remember what we mean when you said business process flow?
Yes.
Yeah, please share with everyone, anyone who might have forgotten, so we just kind of remember that.
It's lead, opportunity, quote, order, and invoice, and those are tables as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The next one, we have an acronym called COLAC. Is there anyone who wants to give it a go, or just even give me what one letter stands for in this acronym? So we have COLAC. Anyone, please, you don't have to give me all of them. You can even guess just one. Please remember, it's a learning session. There's no wrong or right answer. We all learn from each other here.
Customer, order, lead.
Okay, great.
A for accounts.
Okay, great. And C, anyone? So,
Contact.
okay, so let's start again. So C, what does C stand for? The C at the beginning right here, this C here.
Contact.
Contacts, fantastic, that's right. And what does the O stand for?
Opportunities.
Great. And what's the L stands for?
Leads.
Great. And the A here?
Accounts.
Okay, great. And the C here, I'll give you a clue. We're talking about customer service. So, yeah? Cases, fantastic. So what COLAC acronym stands for, it is the base entities in Dynamics 365 sales module. So in most cases, you might go either to a detailed refinement and there's architects there. In most cases, they can just say, oh, let's all look at the COLACs. So if they say COLAC, that's basically what they're talking about. Contact, opportunity, leads, account, and cases. That's basically what it is. So well done, everyone. You got that one right. That's great. So we then have contacts. We spoke about contact. We spoke about customer. So when you see these names here, customer, contact, account, activity, some organization decide not to call a contact. So we have our good friend here who's mentioned university scenario. You do not refer students as contacts. So they refer their students, right? That's basically the university case scenario here. So they call them contacts. You talk about a train company, they refer me and you as passengers. They don't refer to us as contacts. So again, the scenario is different from each individual organization. They don't have to call it a contact. Some call it completely different. So it's just one of those things you all need to keep in mind. In some cases, you might go to a role and you're thinking, yeah, but they told us about contact accounts. I don't see it here. They're talking about an account. They can call it a company. They might call it an organization. They might call it a client. So it's all depending on each individual organization. We all have the data model. So in terms of the data model, you're now talking about what lies behind the system. So in here, what you will say when you talk about the data model, we're talking about the relationships between opportunity, relationship with the lead, relationship with the contact, customer. How do these activities fit within our tables we have? So again, that's important if you're looking at you're doing your data models, if you're looking at data analysis, you want to build your Power BI dashboards. If you do not know how these tables have been connected in the background, it will be easy, it will be difficult for you to join it together. So it's important when you go to your role as a data analyst and they say to you, oh, can you build up a dashboard? The first thing you need to ask the question is, do you have a diagram of your data model? Do you have a data dictionary? Have a look at that. And from that point, you'll be able to get going to say, okay, I want to build my dashboard like this. I want to have my slices here and there, and it makes it easy. So we spoke about tables. We speak about columns now. So in here, it's a bit weird. Microsoft decided to call it column. Before, they used to call it a field. So a field is that area you go and put your name, or you go and select what options of the food items or the plane ticket you want to board, or whatever train ticket. So basically, that's what's called a column in this context. So the column resides on a form in Dynamics 365. So within a lead, opportunity, customer, contact, account, you have forms. And then within those forms, you have columns, which are the fields. So we've covered these three here. We have rows. So Dynamics 365 recently, I think about 25 to 26 months ago now, they changed the name from record to rows. So within a lead table, within opportunity, we have leads, we have opportunities. The opportunities are basically called rows. So it's important for you to understand when people start saying, oh, we need rows, the rows should have the length, or the rows should be this amount, this number, we need to look at about 10,000 rows. That's basically what they're talking about. They're not talking about SQL, they're basically talking about Dynamics. But what I would say is you won't find many people just yet calling these things rows. Most of the time you hear the word fields. So you then have Sales Hub. So when it comes to the Sales Hub, you then have a different model-driven app which comes with sales. So a Sales Hub is limited in what kind of development you can do with it. It's a core model-driven app Microsoft deployed to. Microsoft deploy artificial intelligence capabilities to it. So in terms of customization, it is limited. So most of the time, organizations tend to go and create a separate model-driven app. We now have something called a security role. So for our colleague who's mentioned the project at the university, can you kindly unmute yourself, please? I'm gonna kindly volunteer you for something. Please, I won't make it difficult, I promise. If you unmute yourself, just let me know, please. I hope I haven't scared you off, right?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So in the case study you gave us about the students, right? The students are able to log into the portal and they look at their course material, and the students are able to look at their results. The students are able to log inquiries. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, perfect. So we then have lecturers, right, who mark the assignments and they have access to the all other students' assignments, right?
Right.
And the student cannot see the assignments from other students. Is that correct?
You mean assignment submitted?
Yeah, so someone submits an assignment, the students cannot see them, only the lecturers can see them, right?
Correct, yes, right.
Perfect. So thank you so much for volunteering. for everyone else who've been listening to the answers I kindly got here, what's happening at that point is controlled by security. So the student has a role which allows them to see coursework only belonging to themselves. They're not going to see items, assignments submitted from other students. Only the lecturers do. And in that context, it's not all the lecturers too who have access to those assignments if they do not work within that specific department. So that's just what security roles are. These are basically, these basically security controls to say, okay, you can get to do these kind of things, you cannot. So again, you can think about a bank. A bank has different departments. It's not every cashier you go in your bank who's able just to say to you, oh, say I'm transferring $1 million to your account. There's security constraints in between. So from a dynamics point of view, we're talking about security roles. So security roles are very, very important. So if you are a Scrum Master, you are a project manager, you are a BA. As a BA, you are the one who normally comes along with this one here. So we have something in the chat. Is this the same as access control? Yep, 100%. This is the same as access control. It determines what you can see and what you can do within the system. So that's basically what security roles do. But from a business analyst point of view, if you happen to go on a dynamics project, they can say to you, we have our new BA in the team. Can you please go and put a security model for us? They won't say security role, they'll just say a security for us. That's what they'll just say. So in this context, as you go in the coming slides, it's important to understand exactly what controls are. So in here, if you're a BA, you need to understand, okay, what are the personas meant to achieve? What kind of operations do they take? Do they write to the system, or they're just reading stuff into the system? So that's just something which is important from a BA point of view. From a Scrum Master point of view, you won't have a lot of interaction with security roles, because mostly the BA has defined them, and then the Scrum team from the dev team, they go and do the configuration. So that's just something to keep in mind. We have a sitemap. So when we have a sitemap, in this case here, can I just ask how many of you on the call use an iPhone? Anyone who uses an iPhone here?
Yeah.
Okay. The ones who use Android, I won't forget you. Anyone who uses an Android?
Yeah. Team Android, we are here.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic.
Android.
So we have a hand raised up by Etiemi. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Oh, I did see your hand raised up. Was it an error?
Oh, no, it wasn't an error. I did say I have an Android. I have an Android. And
oh, okay, sorry, that's fine. So with these devices, an iPhone or an Android, you have those different apps. You have WhatsApp, you have your banking apps, you have your Bible, a Bible app if you have it, you have your news apps, and in some cases, you decide what you want to be on the main screen, right? So you don't need to keep going right, or left to get to the apps, right? Or going up to get to the apps. So that in itself, if you're talking about Dynamics 365, we're talking about the sitemap. What is it we want to see on our sitemap? So as a user, when I log in, what is it I want to see? Again, we've been given a fantastic example for the university. What is it we want our students to see when they log in into the portal? So that's something to remember. So again, this here will mainly start with the responsibility from a business analyst. And then it filters through to the developers within the Scrum team. This point, we now have solutions. So with Dynamics 365, you have two types of solutions. One, which is a managed solution. Does anyone want to guess what the other one is called? So I said a managed solution. Does anyone want to guess what the other one is called? Please feel free to put in the chat window and mute yourself if you want to have a go at it.
Is it automated?
Okay, that's a good try. Anyone else? Do we agree with that?
Or managed solutions?
Wonderful stuff. So it's an unmanaged solution. So we have a managed solution and managed solution. So if you happen to get into a role and you get asked, can you look at our release management side of things? You need to ensure the environment have the correct solutions. What I mean by that, I'm just going to give you an overview here. With the Dynamics 365 project, you always start from a development environment. That's where the developers do their work. No business analyst, project manager, scrum master, solution architect is allowed in that environment. Only developers. You then have your QA environment. You then have your UAT environment, user acceptance testing, and then you have production. In some cases, they have pre-prod. Some cases, they have training. Some people have system integration. But in this case, we're talking about development environment. It will always have an unmanaged solution. The other environments, whether it's QA, UAT, pre-prod training, production, they should always have managed solutions. This here, I will go in depth exactly what is the main effect and why the decision is like that and why it's set up like that. We then have something called unified interface. So with Dynamics 365, the way you see the interface on the laptop right now, and you go on your lovely Android or Apple iPhones, the interface, if you use Safari or if you use the Google app as a browser on your devices, the interface will be the same. That's why it's called a unified interface. Before, organizations used to heavily rely on the app, but the interface now got changed to be a unified, much faster interface. User sees exactly what they see on a laptop, on a mobile device, on an iPad, whichever device you can say. We then have users. So in terms of users here, we have two types of users. We have internal and external users. Internal users, they are the important users. External users, they're also important. What you need to do here from a BA point of view, from a project management point of view, the key thing to consider here is the cost. They both come with a cost. So that's why they need to engage either your solution architect to kind of make a decision on licensing. If you're using, for example, that student example, the portal cost is very expensive. The users internal, if they have the wrong license, it becomes expensive. You also have views. So when you talk about views, you're talking about surfacing data. We're talking about surfacing specific data to say, today I want to see how many students from Blue Sky attended the Dynamics class. So that's what a view is. So a view itself, this here, in terms of views, mostly this will go either to a BA or to a data analyst. But if you're working in a project, Scrum Master, Project Manager, it's good for you to understand exactly what is it we're talking about when you say a view. Do we actually need to create it? As a Scrum Master, is a question you can actually ask. If someone says, oh, I'm blocked here with this view, do we actually need to create it is the very first question you can ask. So again, these terms here, please, they are very, very important. If you're talking about a high level of dynamics, you don't need to go into depth about it. But if you mention 2, 3, 4 of them, sometimes the recruiter or the person interviewing you, they kind of have an understanding saying, okay, yeah, this person have had an element of this, so let's give them a chance. But if you don't know any of these, then in some cases, they'll be like, okay, yeah, we're not so sure. And then, yeah, it goes into just a long conversation, which is fruitless. So just moving on, again, we spoke about tables, we spoke about columns, relationships, and security. So again, tables, which we can see here, some examples of it. Columns, we're talking about the fields and relationships. Like I gave you the example of the retail organization. The organization is the company, is the account, the employees are within the organization. So the relationship is many employees to one organization. In some cases, it can be many to many, if it does happen that way. And at the same time, with security, you only have access to the data which you've been given security permissions to. So like rightfully, one of our colleagues says, you've been given the access control to. So that's very, very important for you to keep in mind. So again, now what we're looking to do is to kind of show you exactly what this whole dynamics thing is. So again, this is just to kind of show you some of the things you might need to do as well as part of your sprint. So in terms of auto number settings, fiscal year, currencies, goals, these are some of the things you'll be shown in the coming training sessions, but these things here will be able to show you in a live demo shortly. So the question now is everyone still with me at the moment? If you're completely lost, please, there's nothing wrong in saying you're completely lost. That's the only way you can learn. But if you keep silent, we just assume you're okay. So is everyone still okay at the moment?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm following up. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
If I do say something, guys, and you're not so clear what I'm saying, please do not shy away from stopping or raising your hand up and say, Alex, you just said this. What exactly do you mean by that? So what will happen as part of the training course in the next coming sessions, you will all have a user account and password. So there is one user account and password I've shared at the moment with Mr. Deji, but I will create accounts for all of you. So you have an account, you log in, and as part of some of the tasks assigned to yourself in the sprint, you'll be able to come in the system and you do those things. As part of your sprint review, you'll be able to do your shows and tells. So that's just to give you a heads up. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move away from the slides. I think I've kind of exhausted you with slides. I want to show you exactly what this thing looks like. So what is important here, if you are working, for example, as a business analyst or as a data analyst, even a project manager or scrum master, it's important to make this URL your friend. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it in the chat window. So as you do your development, you will need to come to this URL anyway. So I'm just going to put it in here. So you all have it. So in here, everyone in the meeting, and that's the URL. If you do happen not to be able to get it from here, I will share this in the Telegram group. And if I miss anyone, please do share with them. So from a project management, as a project manager, your key role here is this part here, the billing side of it. You need to be able to understand what is it we are spending and how does it affect our budgets. So that's very, very important from a project manager point of view. In some cases, even as a Scrum Master, you will be able to say, okay, yeah, let me go and check how much we are consuming and how much is it we can save. So it's important to be aware of this area. So what you then have, we spoke about access control. You will only see environments in here you have permissions to. That's very, very important to understand. The environments you have access to. So in this case here, we have the training environment we have set up for you. And what you need to do as part of your sprint stuff, if you are setting up some settings for the environment, I'm showing you on the screen but I'm pretty sure within your organized Scrum teams, people will be assigned tasks to do some of the things I'm going to show you here. So what's also important as you dive into this kind of thing, into dynamics, is to understand once you get to settings here, everything tells you what it does. So it's important to just kind of take a step back, open your eyes and say, okay, yeah, this is what it means. So what you're seeing here, there it is. So you have different types of settings in here. You have behavior, you have features, you have language, privacy and security. You also have business. You also have calendar, connection rows, currencies. You also have user permissions. So you might be thinking, what do we need to do in here? From a business analyst point of view, what I mentioned earlier, those security roles, if you see in here, you then have your users here. You also have teams. So it's important to come and understand security roles, or are we going to use people per departments? So business units in Dynamics, they are departments in simple terms. So again, it's important for you to be able to understand this is the security area. So again, it's important for you to just come and click in here and see what's in here. So if you see, I'm going to click on security roles here. So in here, you can see the security in here. And what you see in here, for example, we have all these security roles in here. What tends to happen as your project goes on, you do not use any of these roles. You create your own. And how you create your own, you basically select one of these and copy it and then tailor it to what you need. So from a security role point of view, this thing you're seeing in here, there's a lot of things associated with it. So it's important for you to understand that read, write, update mechanism. So let me just open one. I'm not going to dive into it so much. In here, what you see in here, it tells me the people who have access to this thing, this security role. And I can also edit the security role. So in here, as a BA, as a project manager, Scrum Master, you don't actually change anything. This is just for you to kind of just have a look, okay, those are the attributes which we're looking for. So what you're seeing in here is taking a bit of time to load. So I'll definitely revisit this. I'm going to carry on. So I'm simply going to click on the training environment. And then at this point, you start seeing the URL. And for those of you who are interested into governance, you also have things which cover data retention in here. This forever here is by default. Your organization should never keep data forever. That's just not good practice. So while I'm in here, this is the URL. So this URL applies to all of you. So instead of coming to this area here, you would then have this URL and you put the username and password which should be provided. So at this point here, I'm going to click here. And what you can see, this in here is the URL, CRM 11. It basically means if you're looking from a data point of view, you're talking about CRM 11, it represents United Kingdom. If you talk about CRM 4, it represents Europe. That's where your data gets stored. If you're talking about CRM, I think 11 or 12, that means South Africa. So each region has data centers for Dynamics 365 and where Microsoft Azure is. So in this context, as part of your project, we are going to be focusing on this app here. So you can ignore the rest of them. This is the one we're going to focus on. So at this point, this is referred to as the front end. Yeah, front end. Remember that term when we're talking about this area here. So when a user logs into the system, this is what they see. Okay, that's out of the box. but we can change it to meet what our business people need and what our product owners put on the backlog. So in here, you got the dashboards, and this area on the left-hand side here is called a navigation pane. Yeah, navigation pane. So your product owner can say to you, I'm not really happy to see this here. Can you please move it from here to up here? Yes, it's achievable. But again, those are the things you need to be able. For example, if you're in a BA point of view, you go on one of these calls on a requirements gathering call, and they say to you, are we able to do this? You should be able in a position to say, okay, yes, we can do it, or no, we can't do it. So again, it just some of those things, it also helps you to be in that confident position, saving you time, trying to go do things which are impossible from your Scrum team point of view. So again, we spoke about our area here, our customers, accounts, and contacts. So this here, you might see an organization being called a different name, the same thing here. So it's important when you go to a role, you understand exactly what they name these things. So when you capture your requirements, you know exactly what you're writing down. So again, what you're seeing at this point here, it's a whole load of tables. So it's a whole lot of tables. What you can see in here, you can click in here, you can go to service, marketing, or training, but our focus is within this training area. So everything we need is here. So in that context, I did mention about contacts. So let me open a contact so you can actually visualize what a contact looks like. So what you can see in here is dummy data. So this is just dummy data to help us out to understand, but we can easily get rid of it. So in here, I'm going to select new. So what you can see here now, this is called a form. So what you see on this page here, this is a form we have opened. So the form is called a contact form. We can have multiple forms, and those will be controlled by security. So if we see here, out of the box, you get all different sorts of forms here. Some organizations just use one. Some use multiple, and they restrict permissions from the access control point of view. What you then see here, these are our fields. So in here, we can put test 1, 2, 3, and then, is everyone okay? Do you think I can save this record? Is this okay? Is there anything you might think I need to do here?
I think more contact information.
The last name is asterisk.
The last name.
The
Last name.
name.
Okay, perfect. So those who said the last name, yeah, great. Those who said more information, great as well. I'll explain the difference here. So this here is one more thing we need to add. Otherwise, we won't be able to save. I'll show you what happens if I try to save. These fields here, they are optional. So if you're working on your project as a BA, as a project manager, you also need to understand why is it we're having fields which are not mandatory on the form. Because if they're not mandatory, why do we need to keep it there? You start need to kind of think, okay, how are we going to capture valuable data if we're not enforcing the data we need to capture? So in here now, if I go and save, so it's important for some of you who are still learning new to Dynamics to kind of keep your eyes on the screen as well. So if you see save here, this is what happens. So of course, it's telling me I need to fill this in. If you have multiple ones, you can simply click here and it takes you to the value. So in here, I'll just put blue sky. So when I put blue sky 1, 2, 3 here, and I'll put that, now I can save it. So once I save it here, we now have a contact. So with a contact, we spoke about a timeline. So in this context, I want to send an email to this person here. So it's not going to work, but I want you to keep an eye on this here. So in this context, I'm going to go into activities. And once I go into activities, I'm going to select email. So once I say email here, by default, it knows I've clicked email. And at this point, I'm going to say send it. So it knows the last recent contact I had open. So I'm going to select this at this point, and I'm going to select send. So it's not going to go anywhere because the email system is not set up to send anything out. There we go. We didn't put an email address on our contact anyway. But again, to achieve what I'm looking to show you here, that's not a problem. That's fine. So now we have created an email record. It's in draft in here. If we then go to our contacts at this point here, and we look at our contact code test123, if you look on your timeline, the activity is now logged that there's an email which is active, which hasn't been sent. If an email has been sent or received, it will have a status of closed. So this timeline here basically records every interaction which we are having with this specific contact. If you notice, I went to this point here. I only went to this point here for the purpose of showing you that it's not just done on one place. So we can do that activity side of things at this point. You see the plus here? Create a timeline record, and you see we can create an email from this point. We can also create a meeting which would then go into your Outlook calendar, into your Microsoft Teams. You can also make phone calls from Dynamics 365. So when you have those contact center people who then tell their manager, I tried to call them, they didn't answer, the manager can simply come and check in here if there's a phone call record. And once that phone call is done, it records what time the phone call started and how long the phone call was for. So if we click phone call as an example, this is what happens. So it tells me the direction is outgoing, and in here, the operator has to put in the subject of what that phone call was all about. They put a description and then they save it. The priority is set up in here. The priority for each individual company can be completely different. So again, if we have a phone number for this contact here, the phone number will just simply populate in here. And again, if you see, it's also telling me it's Alexio who's triggered the phone call. So it tells me who made the phone call. So from a business point of view, you start looking, okay, from our salespeople, who's making more phone calls, and then this normally is surfaced in Power BI dashboard. The manager's outside somewhere, they look at their Power BI dashboard. The Power BI dashboards refreshes in real time from Dynamics. So they're seeing it at that point. That's when they're on the trend. They're sending you an email. Oh, you need to pick up this a bit more. We need to make a few more phone calls. It's because they're seeing the information. So that's one thing which will happen at this point. So in here, we're just going to discard. So again, we then go back to contacts. So if you remember on the slides, I did mention about a view. So what you're seeing here, you're seeing all these rows previously known as records. So this is a view. So what this view is called, it's a system view. A user of Dynamics 365 has the ability to create their own view, which is only visible to them. So one thing, there's a system view. There's also a public view, which can be created as part of the Scrum requirements captured by the BA for the whole users. From a personal user point of view, if you're a BA and one of the users says, oh, I would like to have a view of mine, in this point, you need to stop even writing anything and just tell them to go create a personal view because it's for them alone. If they say, I do not know, it's a training issue, the trainer in the organization will need to train that person. So that's one thing to keep in mind here. We also spoke about the sitemap. So if you see in here at the top here, as a BA, you might be asked to make sure this is hidden. So there's two things you can do in terms of hiding this. You can control it by the security permissions. You can also control it by just hiding it. So it's just not even available for system administrators. So that's just one thing to keep in mind in terms of views. Does anyone has any questions so far? Any questions, anyone so far?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a silly question, Alex, but then
before you go ahead, there's no silly question. There's no silly question. We all learn every day.
Okay, because he keeps saying be a Scrum Master, Project Manager, and I'm just still trying to wonder what is the role of a QA in this.
So as a role of a QA, great, fantastic. You've asked that question. So our Scrum team, in this case, they have built something here. So once they've built something on the view, this view here, from a testing point of view, you then need to come and validate this here. So let me show you what, from a QA point of view, what you can do to validate the requirement that the owner is equals current user, the status is equals to this. This criteria can be expanded. So from a QA point of view, you check this criteria here. After you check this criteria here, you also check, is the full email address visible here? If it's not visible, the developer will need to expand this. We have a hand from Deji, go ahead.
Yeah, and thanks. Another thing I wanted to say was, when you first started and you created a new contact, right?
Yeah.
So which is a very good one. So you saw the last name was mandatory. As simple as that, that should have been a requirement from the VA saying that last name should be mandatory. As a keyway, you want to try that, you want to test that. And I think what Alex first did was what a keyway will have done, right? You didn't put the last name, you press save, right?
Yeah.
And exactly, and you saw the error message. And another, from the QA point of view also, that error message, you also need to validate that is the right error message that is showing, right? It's not saying, oh, I can't find phone number when it's actually his last name that it's looking for. So all those things. Another thing that you need to look, you will take this as an application. There's no difference from how you will have tested an application to this one. It's the same thing. The only difference is you don't know how the application works. And that's what Alex will be showing us, right? But if you take it that this is another application in itself, and yeah, it just tests it the same way.
Thanks, Deji.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. That makes sense. Because I was just wondering, are we going to be testing this? That was going to be my next question. Or are we going to test a completely different website? But yeah, it makes sense.
Yep, you'll definitely be testing this. So from a QA point of view, apart from testing what your Scrum team have developed, you also have Microsoft releases. So from a QA point of view, you need to test the current functionality that it hasn't been broken. So if you're talking about creating a lead, we need to make sure nothing has been broken. Everything still works the way they were working before. So these releases from Microsoft for Dynamics, there are some which are done every 2 weeks. So those can be handled by automated tests. Then the wave releases, they will need to be handled by a combination of automated test and manual test. So from a testing point of view, there's quite a lot of things which needs to be done here. And at the same time, from a testing point of view, is to take this URL here and put it into our other browsers available and see if the application behaves the same. In some cases, it might work perfectly well in Edge. You put it in Chrome, you start getting script errors. So again, those are some of the things, the consideration for testing as well if you're testing this application.
Oh, okay. I was also gonna ask, can you like also test other websites using Dynamics 365? Because I keep seeing job adverts saying, oh, you can apply if you've got background in Dynamics 365. And I'm just wondering, what kind of do they mean theoretical background, or I didn't quite understand.
So basically what they mean from a QA point of view, if they're saying you need to have an understanding of Dynamics, is to make sure you understand when you get to this page here, you understand where you need to go. That's mostly what they're asking you from a testing point of view. So in some cases, I've seen a test case where someone was asked to go and create a contact and see if anything happens here. So they will have automation in the background developed, which says if this has been created, there is a specific message to be posted here. So from a QA point of view, if you don't know how to get here, you'll be clicking things like this. Where's the timeline? You'll be going around and you spend so much time. And then in most cases, you then get asked, oh, have you finished that test? Oh yeah, I'm still looking at it. And then in some cases, they'll say to you, jump on a call, and then they'll ask you, oh, show me where you are with it. But in simple terms, it's like the navigation. If you're testing, if you know where you're navigating to, it makes your life much, much easier. So if you see, for example, with this dummy contact here, you see the amount of activities on there. So again, you might be a system where it's configured to say if a specific meeting has been organized and is being closed, there is a value which needs to be populated. For example, it might be addressed to, in just an example here. So from a QA point of view, you need to be able to understand, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Deji, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that is really, really profound what you just mentioned, actually, because that is the core part of Dynamics, having to know where to get to. And Dynamics, to be in a sense, is like a spaghetti. There are different ways to do the same thing, actually. And it's kind of like a big elephant in the house. You can get lost, actually, to be honest. And could you imagine that even in vanilla, you could get lost? Talk less of when someone now customize it and it becomes their own, right? Then you get lost more. So, and most of the subject matter experts in Dynamics will be using those terminology, telling you, can you go and create opportunity and or talk about customers, and you look at where is customer? Do you get it now? How do I get there? And the first thing you need to know is those terminologies, where they are, how they are. So that's another thing. And I think that is what this particular program will give to you. So because you need to know where these are, how to get to them, those navigation, right? And even if you don't know, then you have confidence to ask someone to say, I don't know where it is. Can you show me, right? When, like Alex also mentioned, when they say, can you jump on the call for me? So you don't run away, right? You know that, yeah, I know what I should know. What I don't know, I can decide to say, I don't have an idea right now. Can you quickly show me? You need to have that confidence because there are lots to learn on this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Is there any other questions in regards to this?
Yeah, hi. Could you click on the accounts? Let's see.
Yeah.
Please.
Yep. Okay. Sure.
Right. Okay. Because it looks similar. The contacts is got things like the phone number, address, email. So the accounts got the same details, but maybe for an organization instead.
So what you're seeing here, I did mention earlier about a primary contact, which will be the key person we speak to for this organization here. So what you're seeing here is Kevin. So if we go to this company here, So we now have the website for the company, their switchboard numbers and their fax numbers here. If we keep going down, you see this is the form here. Across at the top here, we have the details tab. So in the details tab, you start seeing their contact preferences. And what you see here within the tabs, you can start seeing related stuff. So this is the relationships. From understanding the data model, this is very important. So we spoke about the contact for this organization here. So if we say contact, we now start seeing the contact. So this is the contact for this organization. We can simply click onto Kevin Martin, and again, we can see his organization in here. So this is the relationship between the contact and the organization. So once you get here, you can click here, it takes you back to the account.
Right. Okay, that makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Is there any other questions from anyone?
I was gonna ask, what's the difference between business, Dynamics 365 Business Central and the sales, and then I think I saw CE as well. I know there are different types, but what is the difference, the exact difference between them?
Yep. So if you speaking from a dynamic sales point of view, is designed to manage the sales pipeline. If you're talking about dynamic CE, sales come under CE. So what CE stands for is customer engagement. So at this point, the apps are designed to deal with customer interactions. With customer engagement, you talk about sales, you talk about customer service, you talk about marketing. We send marketing material to our customers. You also talk about field service. Those engineers who come to our houses to fix our boiler, to fix our water leaks. So again, that comes under customer engagement. Business Central comes under ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. So again, Business Central, you start talking about financial transactions. That application is designed to be handling transactions, whereas the CE side of things is not designed for that. So you also can expand it for non-for-profit organization. You have a module called Dynamics 365 Non-for-Profit Cloud. That is designed for non-for-profit organization, how they handle donations, how they interact with their volunteers. So again, these are different in terms of the sectors they serve.
Okay, thank you.
No problems. Any other questions from anyone? So if there's questions, please do ask questions. If not, I'll carry on to the next item.
Okay.
Can I have a question, please?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Apologies, I'll be taking us back, and it's just a straight question. In the chat there is a link drop, an environment link drop there. But I clicked on it, but it's asking me for, and I'll have to log in. I don't know what the link is for.
Okay, perfect. So the link itself, it will take you to the admin area where you see this environment. So at the moment, I'm in a process of creating accounts for all of you. So once you have the account and the password, you'll be able to start logging in, and it will take you to that place which I showed you, which is the starting point here. Or you can go directly to this URL here, and it will take you to this navigation.
Yeah, okay, cheers. Thank you, man.
No problem. So just moving on, one thing you need to also understand is this cog here. So this is referred to as a cog. So if you click onto it, you then have something called personalization settings. Personalization settings, these only apply to yourself. It does not apply to the wider organization. So let's click into personalization settings. So what you can see in here, it's what you can see in here, you can see the first thing is the general area. Here defines how many records, how many of those contacts or accounts you can see per page. So in here, you can only go as much as 250 per page. So it's important in case there's a business requirement, someone says, oh, I need to be able to see more records, simply just guide them to this. This is something a user should be able to do. If you're working in a testing function, if you need to see a bit more records, again, these are things you can change by yourself. You have settings like time zone in here. If you scroll down, you can select the default currency. In here, you can also add your own currencies if you need to. And again, country code, which means it will take the country code onto your own personal settings. This does not affect the whole organization. You talk about synchronization, you start talking about how Dynamics 365 interacts with Exchange. So in some cases here, a user can give someone permissions to send emails on their behalf from Dynamics 365. It's not something I would recommend for organizations to do, but some organizations tend to want to go with that option. So again, these are options you have in here. Activities, you can set your working hours in here, what time you start work. And what this does, it filters also to your Outlook. It also filters to Microsoft Teams. So when the time comes, by default, it will update everything to say you're now offline, you're not available. And again, in here, you have formats. You can customize this to have the formatting to your own. So in here, you've got United Kingdom. So the product owner can say, oh, we need to configure this for the whole system, not just for yourself. You also have things like email templates. In some cases, you can have the same email to say, okay, we are hiring or we have a discount. And that template, it will then become a dynamic. So you then have about 250 contacts you send to the same template. And then what happens at that point, the template itself will have each individual person's name at the top. So in some cases, organizations which do mass mailing, those are some of the mechanisms they do. You can also have your own email signature. So this email signature, when you go and create your email, by default, it will pick it up because it knows you're the logged on user. You also have emails in here. So this is now how you can now, as a user, set how you interact with Outlook. So once you set that with Outlook, it allows you to track emails into Dynamics. So when we say track, we're saying associating an email to a specific record in Dynamics. So again, from a tester point of view, you could be asked to test that functionality. An email in Outlook, let's associate it with a record in Dynamics without actually getting to a screen of Dynamics. So those are some of the things you could be asked to do. Again, we have privacy. This is more or less Microsoft. So here it's more or less a personal decision. So again, these can be set for an organization, and then you can always come back and change it if you wish to. You also have languages here. So the languages here, you can select English here because the environment has been created in English, but you can add additional languages if you wish to. So in some cases, I've been on a project where they had a team in Germany and they wanted the application to display in the German language. And the people in France wanted to have it in France. So those things, you can add them on top and give that capability on top. So this is personalization settings. If you need to go on the back end of it, you now go into advanced settings. So we're going to show you where we set these settings for the whole organization. So once you get to this point here, the organization settings will be under administration. So what you see at this point, I've clicked here and I've gone to advanced settings. This interface you see here has been developed by Microsoft for one of their products when they used to call it CRM. It was called CRM 2013. This is where this design comes about from. So Microsoft are in a process of moving away from this interface. So this interface, they call it a legacy interface. So what Microsoft are doing at the moment, they're moving away from here and they're putting it into this area here, into settings. So in here, in terms of the product, you'll be able to see more of those options in here. However, at the moment, not all of them have arrived here. So let's go back to our screen we had here. How do I get rid of this something? 1 second. Sorry, I'm just trying to minimize this Zoom screen. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, it's going great. So at this point here, we can select system settings. So once we have system settings, at this point here, we can set global settings for the whole organization, not just for one person. So again, what you can start seeing in here is these options. There's quite a lot of options in here now, if you can see, as compared to the user level. So you can start setting these for everyone. And these are the attachment formats which are allowed in Dynamics. So if you're working and you're being asked from a testing point, business analysis point for these formats, this is where you see what formats are allowed. You can select formats in here. The organization is set to United States. So in here, you can select here for the whole organization where you want it to be located in terms of currency. So this is where you set the currency settings. You also have auditing, where you need to kind of understand what activities are taking place within your application and within your users. And then email. So at this point here, we're talking about server-side synchronization. When you talk about server-side synchronization, we're talking about the interaction between your Outlook and Dynamics 365. So in here, incoming emails, they are handled with Microsoft Exchange. So as part of your requirements or testing, this is important for you to know this thing exists and it resides here. And at the same time, you have an option to set alerts here. And if you see by default, they're already selected. In terms of marketing, we also have that option when we get too many emails and we unsubscribe. So again, it's important for you to know what actually happens in here. By default, these are to knows. But organizations, most of the time, they say to you, if we have someone unsubscribe, we need to make sure they have do not contact in terms of marketing material. So again, it's understanding where this thing resides. So these are things your product owner can have on the backlog, or the organization at Blue Sky can ask you to do as part of your oncoming sprints. In terms of customizations, again, you can kind of start seeing here. So this is more affecting what a developer would do than what the business is actually doing. So this is more developer impact than anything else. We then have reporting. Again, we have these types of reports available. You can add some more, you can delete. Again, it depends with the use case. Again, we have our calendar here. And if you see maximum durations of an appointment in a day, you can basically change that. And if you see the scheduling engine, it says legacy. It's an old engine which Microsoft will change in the next few sprints of theirs from their side of things. We spoke about goals at the beginning of the introduction of the course material. So in here, we start looking at these goals here. So again, we'll start defining what are the goals, what are the hours are needed in terms of setting these goals. Start talking about sales in here, and then you start seeing a few more other things in here. So again, when you look at some of the requirements, which will be on the backlog, it's important for you to kind of take a step back and say, okay, do we need to develop anything, or we just need to ask our dev to dive in here and then set them in here accordingly. We also have service. Again, these are some of the flags available. These are the SLAs. SLAs, service level agreements. So what is our service level agreements in terms of delivering our orders to our customers in a sales setting? If it's a customer service setting, what is the SLA in responding back to our customer? Some businesses say we endeavor to reach back to you in the next 24 hours. It just depends what definition they give it. So again, in here, we're talking about the setting for synchronization. So this is more, again, as part of that sprint, or as part of that Scrum team, you kind of have to look at these options in here. We talk about the mobile client. We're now talking about the Dynamics 365 app. And if we select here, we can start seeing the mobile offline capability setting, which is in here. So again, we have previews. Any items in previews can be switched on here. However, some of these things have found a new home in this area here. So if you select this option which says features, you start seeing some of the things which are in preview here. So what happens is most of the items in preview, if you see, they are switched off. With Microsoft, they give you the ability to switch them off at the moment, but you need to switch them on to test them. At some point, once they decide, they'll basically just switch it on for everyone. So if you see this one here, specific preview, you can switch it on as a tester, test out exactly how does it impact the current system. As a BA, test it out and see how does it mirror the business requirement, what the business needs. So again, it's just to have that oversight of these things here. So what you need to do in this case here, if you are the one who's been given the task to come and make some changes to those fields, which I've shown you here, to come and change some of these fields here. If you happen to have that privilege, what you then need to do at this point here, you then need to go to an app, to this area here, make.powerapps.com. So if you see, I was too quick for my own good. So at this point here, apps.com, so it will get to it. So this here is the cooking area. So when I say the cooking area, is the area where you start making your changes. So we spoke about solutions. So in here, when we say solutions, this is the solution here. So once we get here, we have so many solutions. So if you are part of a development team and it's your first sprint, you need to create your own new solution. So if you see, it also tells you here, these solutions are managed. So most of these will, with the yes, they are Microsoft solutions. They will always be managed because they don't want you making changes to it. If you see this is a test solution I created in here, it's not managed. So again, the key thing here, this is a default environment. You need to be developing in the environment where you need your work to be shown. So it's important for you to come and click this area here. And this is our environment. You only see environments you have access to. So always remember that. So again, you start seeing here, we're talking about the sales premium. And again, all these are managed. So in this context here, we are going to create a new solution. And then this solution is being called Blue Sky Training 2023. And in terms of a publisher, we're going to create a new publisher. So this publisher will be called Blue Sky. This is what identifies the work which is done at Blue Sky. And then in here, I want the name to be exactly the same as the display name. In here, like that. And then we can put a description in here. And then in here, it says put a prefix. So the prefix in here, we're going to put BLSYL. So that's the prefix we're putting in here. And then we say save. So is there something missing? Yeah, it's got everything it needs. And then we can select our publisher in here. It's now here. So you should never use these publishers here. If you're developing, it should always be this publisher here. And then the version, it stays like that for the first one. Then the increment becomes here as you build more. So you can go to 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how much you're developing in your organization. It tells us the date when this has been installed. By default, it creates an unmanaged solution. So we're going to select create here. Yeah, go ahead. So what I've done here, I've done one of the tasks for you for your sprint. So you now have a container, which is the solution for Blue Sky Citadel. So once you start seeing your items on the backlog, you need to start coming to add your components you need to build upon within this container here. So all your user accounts will give you the ability to add in here. As a team, we'll be able to see who's adding things here and who's not. So if things go wrong, we can revert it back. But this will be the area where you put your components you're developing. So the first thing here, we're talking about a table. So we need to start putting our table. If we're developing something for the contact table, if we're developing something for the account table, they need to be in here. So in this case here, you can come and go in here and you put a table. So in here, this is a new table. In most cases, we'll say, do not create a new table, go with the existing tables. So in here, if you say existing tables, then you have a list here. Once you have a list here, this is now isolated development. You're developing against the components which meet the business requirement. And at the same time, from a best practice, the application lifecycle management, we now know within these solution components, this is what was done. It then mirrors within our release notes. In our shows and tells, we know exactly what solution we're working with here. So now I'm going to open up the floor. Is there any questions or anything from what I've kind of discussed this evening? Anyone might want me to elaborate on, or something you think I need to talk to a bit more? So we have Olumide, you have your hand raised up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. In the course of the session, you did mention that you will not advise organization to synchronize Dynamic 365 with their Outlook email. Why did you say that? Did you elaborate more on it?
Perfect. So what I actually said is I wouldn't recommend people setting the setting to send on behalf of somebody. So what that means is I'll set Dynamics to be to allow you to send an email as Alex. So what that means is if I decide I'm having a bad day, let me send an email on your behalf, and then the customer gets upset. Of course, we can find out who sent the email, although it's on behalf of somebody. The only risk there is the reputation of the business. So ideally, we need to recommend people sending emails as themselves, not someone sending emails on behalf of someone. So you can imagine in this case, in Dynamics here, someone sends an email telling me Deji wants to book me a ticket to Zimbabwe, where I come from. I'll be messaging Deji directly, calling him to say, please buy the ticket now. Then only later to find out it was yourself who done it as a joke. Then at that point, I'm giving Deji grief on that point. So it's not really a good thing to have in some cases. Deji, you have your hand raised up. Please go ahead.
Yes, because this is one of the features I love most actually in Dynamics actually as a QA, right? So because you want to test with different personas, you want to test with different roles, and having this actually give you that power to be able to send the emails based on different particular roles. I loved it actually. And the way you're actually talking as if you're going to tell Microsoft to remove it. No, it's really, really great actually to have that. Well, from the test environment, I get your point in terms of live environment. It's not really great to set it up on a live environment, but on the test environment, it's really a great feature. And for me, I really enjoyed
it. Awesome. Is there any other questions from anyone? Any comments, any input, or from what you kind of understood from today's session? Is there something you think, okay, I need to understand this? If there's something and you're not sure on the call right now, please feel free to share them with the admin team, and happy to address those questions. Do not wait for the next session. If you have any questions you might need answered, share with the admins, and we'll get those questions and we'll address them. And at the same time, if there's something you think has been said today and you're not so clear about it, also please note it down. Don't just say, okay, I didn't get it, it is what it is. Note it down, and at some point, if you feel comfortable to ask, feel free to ask, and we'll be happy to answer as best as we can. So on that note, that's all what I wanted to share with you today. There's quite a lot of more things which you'll see in tomorrow's sessions. Please, I would advise you again to come with this interactive attitude you all brought today. I'm really thankful for it. If there's any more questions, please, again, shall we have a hand up? Femi, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. So the question is really for Deji, because today I almost missed the lecture. So I want to find out, are we going to create a different group for this? Because I was expecting a link to be sent. So I don't know how it's going to be working out. So going forward, how is the lectures going to be working out at the time, or are we going to create groups? Or have we created groups and I'm not included? I don't know. So that's what I want to know.
Okay. A test was already sent out. So, what group are you?
I mean the advanced team.
How did you get the link?
I used the one for the one we did last week.
Oh, okay. So technically, maybe you're not meant to be here.
No, but because I've paid already as well. So
Okay, you need to speak to the who you pay to. You need to speak to the admin, actually. So you are meant to be in the Omega team. If you are not there, then something is wrong, right? You need to be in the Omega team, and link are sent to the Omega team, actually. So because you are in the advance, so yeah. So it's actually the Omega team that you need to be in. So if you are not there, there are two teams here, actually. One is Omega team, one is Zeta team. Zeta, not beta, Zeta, Z-E-T-A. So those are the two teams. For those guys in the advanced team, you are in the Omega team. So for these two teams, right, you are meant to, you should have received a text. I think the admin sent a text, and I also followed with another reminder this evening. But I know there
Telegram. No, I didn't.
Yeah, on Telegram. Yeah, on Telegram. Yeah. I know there are a lot of people that are not in these teams. To be honest, maybe you'll be able to get in tomorrow. After tomorrow, you are not going to be honest. So I think I've seen some names. I've marked your name down, actually. So
Yeah,
you might be, sorry?
Yeah, because I paid already, and I know I sent my, even send my receipt and all that. So I don't know why. Hello? Yeah, I sent a copy of the receipt to you, to your.
Of course, I don't do any of these things. So that means if you send anything to me, it goes into the spam, to be honest. So, you know, and I think, Femi, you should know better now, actually. Yeah. So there are people doing this, right? So those are the ones that you need to talk to. I don't do this any longer, to be honest. So, and if you send an email to me that's not personal email, like personal, it goes into spam, actually.
Okay, then I'll do that.
So yeah, speak to the admin, let them know that, yeah, I think you are meant to be in Omega, you are not there, what is happening, then yeah. Or send emails to admin@blueskystarlet.com. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.